Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Paul Murphy, and today we've got a very, very special guest. We've got Ty Cohen, and he's based in North Carolina, and I'm obviously over in the UK. And I've been seeing Ty online. I joined his Facebook group, and we've never actually met in person because since my business exploded, obviously, COVID happened, right? So we're all kind of connecting online. But what was really interesting about Ty's story is that he basically is tapping into something that hardly anybody's doing right now. Now, at the moment, there is a possibility to tap into 500 million Amazon, the 500 million Amazon database. And the thing is that this is not just for subscribers, right? This is the entire database, because everybody, like you guys, have all put your credit card in Amazon, right? So you can do purchases, whether you're on the Prime or any of the other plans. You can literally sign up for that. And one of the biggest things as well at the moment is ebooks, right? Because obviously, if you've got an ebook, or if you've got somebody who's kind of like selling ebooks, this is not just a way to generate a massive income. This is a way to really, really build that connection with your audience. You can quite often sell like massive high ticket products on the back of ebooks and things like that as well. So this is kind of an untapped market at the moment. And when I found out about what Ty was doing, I was like, whoa, I've got to bring him on, right? And we've got to check this out. So it's also one of the most profitable things to sell on Amazon, right? So like ebooks are kind of one of the things that sell. I mean, if you think about it, Amazon started off with books, right? Amazon was originally books. So we're going to dig into that. And obviously we're going to find out more about Ty and his journey and like where you've come from and what you've done. So first of all, I just want to welcome you to the show and just say, hi, Ty. Thanks so much for joining us. It's an absolute honor.
Hey, Paul, man, I'm excited to be here. As a matter of fact, I speak across the planet, and I think this is one of the best introductions that I've had. I got to bring you with me to introduce me. When the world opens up again, right? I got to bring you with me to introduce me before I jump on. But I'm happy to be here, man. It's a pleasure.
Cool. So if we go back, because a lot of us had previous lives, right? And what I like to do is go back and like what led you to sort of discover this ebook thing? And obviously we'll dig into that in the interview. We'll find out more about how people can set that up, because obviously, there's going to, like, people in my audience generally are interested in making money, right? Like they generally want to make money online. And like there's lots of different ways, there's lots of different things you can do, but like I've never written a book, right? I've never written anything. So I'd be really interested in kind of finding out about that. But before we sort of get to that, like where do you, what led you? I know you're a family man and you travel around the world and you do like funky stuff. But yeah, what sort of led you into that? Like, how did you even discover that?
Yeah. So the story is pretty interesting, man. And here's something that I kind of get a laugh out of myself every once in a while. So in high school, I failed English 101, basic English, not just one time, but twice because I'm an overachiever. So to be a guy who teaches people how to self-publish books and how to write books is just really interesting, because that wasn't one of my loves, being able to go in and write and create content. But after seeing how there's so many different ways that you can actually get content created, whether you write it yourself or whether you outsource it or whether you speak it and have it transcribed to text. There's a million different ways to have quality content created. And we'll talk about some of that. But as far as my background, I actually got started with this because when I was younger, in my 20s, I owned a record label. So we had a record label. I put a lot of money into this thing, busted my butt, and it didn't really go anywhere. Right. We had a little bit of moderate success. We had some radio and television play in states like New York and Connecticut, and New Jersey, and the East Coast here. But
I'm just going to quickly chime in.
Yep.
Anybody we would have ever heard of? Because everybody's going to be thinking it, right? Like,
yeah,
I wonder if
not at all. I wish I could say, here's who it was. I wish that was it. That was the ultimate goal. So ultimately, the record label kind of flopped. Didn't do anything. But I had all of this knowledge. So I had all of the knowledge of how to groom your artist, how to get your artist booked on radio stations and television shows, how to produce music. And I'm thinking, like, it took me years to develop and understand the business. There's got to be other people that are trying to get in as well, but don't know where to start. All right. I didn't have anyone. There wasn't any YouTube at that time. There wasn't any podcasts or great interviews like this that you could tune into. So I said, you know what? Let me take this knowledge and I'm going to package it and put it into a book format. Now, this time, Amazon Kindle wasn't around. As a matter of fact, Paul, let me ask you a question. Can you believe that Amazon's been around for over 20 years? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I remember when they were just selling books, right? They literally just sold books. Yep. They were quite a small company, really. They were kind of, on the outskirts of everything when the internet sort of formed and sort of got going, weren't they? Really, initially.
Yeah, and everyone thought they were nuts, right? Just selling books. So speaking of books, right? So at that time they had a program called Amazon Advantage. So Amazon Advantage, and I think it might even still be around now. Amazon Advantage is where if you were an author or a small publishing house, you can actually print up your own books, ship them out to Amazon, and Amazon would handle the fulfillment. They would store your books, they would take the orders, they would handle customer service and everything else, and then they would send you a royalty check at the end of the month. So I ended up having a couple of books published, and my first 3 books I actually wrote myself. Terrible. They were terrible. It was like my first website I built myself, and it was the total opposite of what you should do. It was a black background with white text, right? Total opposite. So the first couple of books I wrote were terrible, but after sending them over to Amazon and putting them up on the site, I kind of forgot about it. Came back a couple of months later and found out that I made money. So I went back and understood the process, like learned the process even more, published a few more books and got that up to the point where I was generating about $10,000 a month just by selling physical books. Around this time, just a few years later, Amazon started to develop what's known now as the KDP process, and that's Kindle Direct Publishing Platform. And they invited me as a beta tester. And to be honest with you, at that time, I thought no one would buy ebooks. I'm like, who's going to buy digital books? Right? As marketers, we were selling ebooks, we were selling digital books, but I thought
that's right,
globally, who's going to how are we going to get the moms and the grandmas and the iron workers and everyone else to really embrace digital books? But I had the files. So I had the Microsoft Word docs and I uploaded them to Amazon, came back a little while later, a couple of months later, and to my disbelief, I ended up selling a significant amount. And from there, that was it. I put all of my attention for years just into digital publishing, just into Kindle publishing. And that's
so. When did Amazon allow you to create Kindle books then? When was that? I can't.
About 15 years ago.
About 15, really?
Yep.
15 years ago.
Isn't that insane that it's been around that long?
Because I had a Sony reader for quite a few years, and then I was dating a girl in about 2012, and she said, "You've got to get a Kindle." She said, "You go everywhere, you can just read. You can put hundreds of books on them, right? Because they've only got so many gig on them, but books don't take up any space, so you can put so many books." And I was like, okay. And then I used to travel as well, like you. I've traveled around Australia, New Zealand, and you used to have half your weight was all these books, right? So, I mean, I think the market's obvious, and I do think people sometimes want a book. They want the pages and they want that. But it's like when cinema came out, people didn't stop. When video came out, people didn't stop going to the cinema. I think cinema serves a purpose. A real book, sometimes people want to have bookshelves and things like that. So I don't think they're ever going to go out of fashion. But I also think that Kindle is obviously serving a massive gap for people who want to just be on the move. You can download your book immediately, right? Like you can literally buy it now. You don't need to walk down to Waterstones or whatever the shops are in the States. Our biggest one's called Waterstones, right? You don't need to walk down
if you can find any in the States.
Oh, right, really?
Thanks to Amazon, right?
Oh, you think the Kindle's taken over in the States, is it?
Oh, it's insane.
Well, it has, yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Like our local bookstores, they're almost non-existent, especially the smaller mom. Really? So there's it's a gift and a curse, right? So
yeah. I guess that's the thing. That's the way life goes.
It's just so spot on.
I think
it's just a natural progression.
Yeah. Sorry, we got a little bit of weirdness went on there, but there we go. Carry on.
I heard that it was the Matrix right there.
I think we're in the Matrix. Yeah.
Right. But you said something that kind of explains why the process works so well. Because when you're buying digital content, when you're buying Kindle books, it's such an impulsive buy. Listen, if you say, hey, listen, I just read Think and Grow Rich, right? Greatest book ever. You got to pick it up. and I'm a Kindle reader. I'm a guy who likes to, read digital books on my phone. I'm going to go in and instantly pick it up. It takes me no effort, very little resistance, right? The price point is there. I don't have to get in my car. I don't have to go to the bookstore. I don't have to thumb through it, nor do I have to, the other option I have is I can order it online. Of course, you can still order physical books, but the convenience. And I think that's what Amazon has mastered. Like you said at the very beginning of the intro, almost every single person that's watching this has a credit card number that's on file. And in most cases, like in my household, we have about 4. So I've got my personal credit card. I've got my business credit card. My wife has her credit card. My son has his credit card on file, right? So they make that purchasing process super easy. No resistance, no friction.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole model of Amazon, isn't it? Even if you're buying physical products, anything, it's kind of like 2 clicks and you're done sort of thing. You just need your phone, or, in the case of your Kindle, just press buy and it's there, isn't it? It literally says sending, done, like that. It's kind of crazy.
1, 2. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So they've made it so that even the laziest of us can still utilize their model and everyone's happy. Customer gets what they want super quickly.
Yeah.
And then, they get what they want.
So what would be interesting to know then is, how come you went from the record company to Amazon then? What was it because you wanted to write a book about something specific, or was it just you spotted something and thought, oh, I quite like the look of that? I'm quite interested to find out about that.
So two reasons, right? Number one, money. Lots of opportunity there to make money.
So you could see that this was going to happen. You kind of had a feeling. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, because just to sort of add to that, I didn't start a YouTube channel for 9 years, but in 2007, me and my friends was putting up music videos, but I was off camera, right? Because I was a bit shy. And I was like, this something, I just knew that this was going to take off. And sometimes you just know, don't you? You just you've done a bit of business, especially if you've got a bit of knowledge about business and you can kind of spot a trend. Yeah. So I totally get that. Yeah.
And I think that, I think that's important because listen, we were all born with this innate feeling of being able to tell when something is great or when something's terrible, right? It's like you meet someone and either you get a good feeling about that person or you get a bad feeling about that person. And normally we kind of fight it and we don't go with our instinct, but we all have that. You go with your instinct, whether it's business, whether it's the individual, whether it's the person that you're thinking about marrying, right? Or whatever it might be. And that was it. So at this time, especially being part of the music industry, I saw that there was this transition with music. Like we saw music go from records. But no, we even saw music go from records to like 8 tracks to like cassettes and then to like CDs and MP3s. So it's just only a matter of time when everything else would go in that direction too, right? Yeah, and now we look at books. So books have done that. And then, like you said earlier, videos, So when we got home yesterday, one of my favorite things is to me and my son go to the movies in the middle of the day, 12, 1 o'clock, go to the movies. And now because of COVID, we haven't been able to do that, right?
Yeah.
But, and I thought that I would be the last person to embrace watching movies on Netflix or Amazon. I was just like, I'm not going to do it. I hate it. Last night, I find myself watching a movie on Amazon Prime and loving it and saying, this is the best thing ever. So it's just a matter of progression of where things are going. And I think that either you get on board or you get left behind and you look back and you say, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And the thing is with all of this, whether it's music or movies or books, which is what we're talking about, there's so much opportunity for everyone.
Yeah.
So I've got a student of mine who began publishing over 10 years ago, and she still has books today that are still selling. She's made over $106,000.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just massive amounts of opportunity here.
So I
get excited just talking about it.
Yeah. I can see your energy. That's crazy. But so I just wanted to add one thing about Amazon. When you were talking about Amazon, then I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, Amazon, right? If you log into Netflix, right? I don't know about in the US, but in the UK, you can share your login, right?
Yeah.
You can have it's only £6 a month in the UK, right? But you can still share your login with a few people and everyone can log in. But you don't do that with Amazon. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
funny thing is that if you shared your login with somebody, they can go and buy everything on Amazon, right? Because they've got access to your account.
Yep.
So that's the first thing I thought was a very clever business model from Amazon. I know this is not directly linked to the books, but it was just something that I thought of when you said that. And then also, Amazon, if you want to go and search out a film, now they haven't got every single film on the planet, but they've got sort of 80 to 90% of everything. So if it's not on Prime, you can go and rent it, right? You can rent, or you can even buy, I think you can even buy it, a digital version of it and keep it, or you can rent it for a day or a couple of days or whatever. So if you want to watch a film now, right? Say you want to, like, I want to watch this film from the 80s or anything, right? You can literally go on Amazon, right? And you can watch it. You can just go, okay, bang, I'll watch it right now. You don't need to wait for it to come on telly. You don't need to go to the shop. And I thought, love or hate Bezos, right? Obviously controversial man. But the fact is that that's a smart business move. Like, whatever you want to say about business, I know that Netflix is probably number one in terms of video streaming, but Amazon are definitely on the case. Like, there's no way that they don't know what they're doing, right? So I always like notice these little things. But yeah, so the thing is, right, obviously anyone watching this is going to think, right, okay, well, that all sounds great, Ty, but I can't write a book, right? Because I have put off writing a book. I wouldn't know where to start. I don't really know. And like you said, obviously your first book, you said wasn't great, but you sold anyway. But so how like, if somebody was like, okay, this sounds good. Like, why? First of all, I would ask, like, why would they want to sell a book? And also the second question, which we'll come on to after, is like, how would they get started? So I guess, first of all, why would somebody want to sell a book? What's the opportunity right now?
Yeah, great question. So what we find is, and I've helped well over 100,000 people, right, to get published. And what I find is that there's normally two different types of individuals. They fall into one of the two groups. The people that are writers, and they've always had that book in them, and they just, like, it's stuck in their head. They don't know how to get it out, or they have a beginning and they don't have a middle, or they don't have the end. And then there's also people who have a middle and they don't have a beginning or the end. Or then there's people that have the end and they don't have a beginning. This thing is going to end amazingly, incredibly well, and people are going to love it, and they're not going to be able to wait until the next version comes out. So we have those people that are diehard readers. I don't fall into that class, right? Diehard writers. I don't fall into that class.
Right.
They make up maybe about 25 to 30% of our audience, which is great because they come in and they're passionate about what they do. They put out some great content. And then there's the second group of people that they see the opportunity and they know that whenever you put out a book, it becomes this piece of intellectual property that continues to live on forever. Like I said, one of my students, Linda Allen, who's been publishing for over 10 years, has generated well over 6 figures. So there's those people who want to get into the opportunity. It's like Bitcoin, right? It's like the stock market. It's like investing in mutual funds. People who see the opportunity, and there's very little friction for them to get in, but there's huge potential on the upside. So those individuals, they more so embrace the outsourcing aspect of what we teach. And that is hiring someone to go in and write your content for you, hiring someone that can go in and put it all together. And, the starting point of all of that is just knowing what to sell first. Because, Paul, one of the mistakes that I see that people make is they'll say, okay, I've got a great idea. Now let me go publish a book around it. Either I'm going to write it myself or I can outsource it. Great idea. I'm going to publish this book. And then they end up failing fast. Like, they end up doing nothing. So what I like to teach is, first, you want to make sure that you do your market research in the right way. Because if you do the market research and you find out what people want to buy, and you find out if there's a history of people buying it, and then you go in and publish that, you're going to have a ton of success. So we don't want to be the innovators here. We don't want to be the Indian that blazes the trail, because those Indians end up with a lot of arrows in their back. We want to be the guy that goes after the first guy, or after the second guy, or even after the fifth guy sometimes, because they've proven that there's a market there. They've proven that it sells really well. And then we want to jump in and kind of emulate what they're doing, right? So get in, tweak it, make it a little bit better, and then we have a ton of success. And that's how we're able to hit like the number 1, the number 2, the top 10 spots so easily. And long term. It's not like fleeting success where it lasts, a month or 2 months, but continuously long term.
So what should people write about?
So, man, there's so many different things. You can write about fiction or nonfiction,
Yeah.
right? So what I usually like to tell people is, and what I do is I go through this entire 3-step process where I show them how to go in and do the market research, where regardless of what the idea is, let's say it's my wife's just started a keto diet, right? And I'm going to whisper, she's been driving me nuts with this because when my wife is on a diet, the whole house is on a diet. So let's say if keto dieting is your thing.
I'm single at the moment, so I get away with that one.
Yeah. So,
but then having said that, I'm overweight. So if I had a wife, I'd probably be a bit slimmer, right?
So let's say if your thing is keto dieting, right? So we show you how to go over to Amazon, find out what's selling well about keto dieting.
Yeah.
And then look at the reviews to find out what people like about those books, what they don't like about those books. Yeah. Because that's going to help you to create the ultimate book on keto dieting. You look at the reviews and what people are raving about, you want to make sure that you incorporate that into your book. But also by the same token, what people are complaining about, you make sure that you exclude that from your book. Yeah. Right. And then you look at the way they've crafted their titles, the way they've written out their description. And we give you templates for all of this stuff, right? To make it super easy so that you don't have to be a genius to do all of this. And it's basically, listen, it's so easy that my 13-year-old actually publishes books. My 16-year-old, who's a football player, he publishes romance novels. 16-year-old, big beefy football player publishing romance novels, and he makes about $3,500 a month doing so.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. So how easy is it to get it on Kindle then? So if somebody comes and buys, somebody like say they come to you or they decide they want to go and get a book, okay, and they've got an idea. So first step, obviously, a bit of market research, make sure that you're going to connect, right? You're going to connect with people that are looking for certain books, or you're going to
demand.
Be putting it in front. If you write a book about underwater basket weaving and nobody ever searches for it on Amazon, I'm imagining you won't sell it, right? Because it's not going to appear anywhere. It's not going to have any reason. So I think underwater basket weaving's overrated anyway. I'm taking up overwater basket weaving now anyway. So, but yeah, so that's interesting. So obviously try and resonate. So would people write about themselves, or would they write about like things they're passionate about, or does it just vary?
No, it just basically varies. So let's take my couple of books, the first books that I started with, right? Yeah. So my passion was the music industry. So I wrote about now granted, I didn't have a Ty Cohen to walk me through the steps, right? So at that time I'm doing this through trial and error. Yeah. But what I knew was the music industry. So I was able to sit there and kind of write my own books. Now, if I was starting all over again, I would never do it that way. Yeah. Because although I had success with publishing books on the music industry, I could have taken that same amount of time, did some research to find out what's really selling, put that same time into outsourcing, having that content created, which costs less than $200 US to have someone write your book for you. So it's super cost effective, right? But had so much more success monetarily, right? So this is the way you want to think about it. What time am I going to put into this? Because regardless of if I write about subject A or subject B, it's still going to take the same amount of time. But which subject is going to make me the most amount of money? And does it have to be? Listen, I don't. When I was first coming into the internet marketing space, one of the things that I always heard was pursue your passion. Pursue your passion, and that's where the money will be. I think that's kind of bogus. I think that you pursue where the money is, right? And you don't even have to be. I've got books on wedding planning. I've got books on homeschooling.
I should have bought that book off you, because when I started my first business, I was a wedding planner.
Oh, really?
I put on my first website in 2002, and I decided I was going to be a wedding planner, right? Yeah. And I had a woman come in with her daughter, and she started asking me questions about matching drapes with napkins, right? And I went white as a sheet, and she left. And that's kind of how I got to what I got to today, because I had a website that was ranking and getting traffic, but I didn't actually have a business, right? Because I realized straight away I wasn't going to do it. So I should have had that book, and then I probably would have known what I was doing. But yeah, I just thought I'd add that.
But no, but you were on the cusp of something, because if you think about it, like some of my books are, like I said, my son publishes romance novels. I publish a lot of romance novels, mystery thrillers, sci-fi books. books on wedding planning, homeschooling, dating. So what's one thing, if you can think about it, what's one thing that all of those subjects have in common? Dating, wedding planning, homeschooling, romance novels, sci-fi, mystery thrillers. They're all pretty much evergreen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're pursuing, that the subject is going to be evergreen. So whether you publish it this year or not, it's still going to sell a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. Did you guys have in the UK a couple of years ago, the kids, they had these tops that you spin, and it was like all a rave. It was like for like a year or two, it was like everywhere you went, shops sold these freaking tops. I forget, fidget spinners.
Fidget spinner, yeah. Everyone had them.
Everyone had them, right? And so now you'd be hard pressed to find a fidget spinner, right? Because they're not evergreen.
Yeah, so they were a fad, weren't they? Really, they were a flash in the pan. Yeah, definitely.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I actually put because at the time I was trying different things, and I put up a site selling them, and I was on the tail end, so I didn't sell it. I sold a few, but very few.
You know, we did too. So I set up a site with my daughter and my son as well, because they were driving me nuts about fidget spinners. They must have had 1 million of them.
Yeah.
But fidget spinners, right? So that's the opposite of where you want to go when you're publishing a book. You always want to think, what's going to be evergreen? What will my audience want to still consume and purchase 5 years from now, 10 years from now? So
that's great
anything
advice.
That's a flash in the plan is not going to work. No. The other thing that you want to think about is the market. So the size of a market. So you want something that really appeals to multiple millions of people, and the more the better. So if you look at romance, huge genre. If you look at mystery thrillers or sci-fi, if you look at wedding planning, there's millions of people that get married every single year. Anything that has to do with raising babies, anything that has to do with buying a home, buying a car, anything that has to do with entertainment, because people like to be entertained all the time. You know, you can't go wrong. So evergreen, large markets, those are the two primary factors that you should always think about whenever you're publishing a book. And then we go back to this book here, right? Think and Grow Rich. This thing has been around. I think he published this in the early 1937.
Yeah.
Originally, I don't know if you can see that, but originally penned in 1937.
And I've never seen the same front cover twice. It's always different. I've got a version and it's different.
It's totally same thing. I've never seen the same. But I mean, they've sold millions and millions and millions of copies of this because it's evergreen. Now, a little bit of a content might be dated, right? Because again, it was written in 1937, but the principle of it, that is teaching people how to get what they want. That's never going to go out of style, whether it's teaching people how to get what they want in the form of having this massively successful business or more money or the man or the woman of their dreams or a better life, regardless. It's evergreen. And it's a huge, massively huge market there.
Guys, that is a proper gold nugget there. So would you say, if I was showing people, because I show people how to rank videos on the front page of YouTube videos on the front page of Google, right? So I
need to take your course.
Yeah, you need to take my course.
Right.
So, but right now, that is hot, right? I think it's going to be evergreen, but it might not be. Right? Because Google might change things. Google might not even be around in 5 years. Who knows, right? So in effect, that would be a great thing for now. And that wouldn't necessarily be a bad book to write right now, because that would really help people. But in essence, to what you're saying, that might not be good in 10 years, right? Would you agree?
No. So here's yes and no. So here's why I say that. So when I first started publishing Kindle books 15 years or so ago, when I told my family and friends about it, what do you think their reaction was?
I have no idea. Why?
They thought it was nuts.
Were they really?
They thought it was just nuts. They thought it was a fad. You know, they're like, get a real job. Now that I've made millions of dollars from it, right? And then now I've got people that family members that I've never met who are like, hey, can you teach me that Kindle publishing stuff now?
Right, yeah. So, it's always the way, isn't it? Get a real job. I think Russell Brunson was saying in one of his presentations the other day that his mum stopped saying that about a year ago. $150 million a year, I don't think I need to get a real job. you know.
Yeah, I think we're okay, Mom.
I think we're okay. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? That most people, I've actually had arguments with some of my friends, right? Because it makes me laugh because they say, get a real job. And I say, if everybody got a real job, then you guys wouldn't have a job because it needs entrepreneurs to create business. You know?
So true. So very true.
That's the thing. So, that kind of shuts them up for 5 minutes and then they think of something else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. But going back to your question regarding YouTube, man, so here's, so when I first started publishing the Kindle, because it's kind of the same, right? It's kind of the same. You could say, well, YouTube may not be around. Google may just say, hey, let me just shut everything down, or we can restrict it, or we could start charging, right? And I kind of had all of these nutty thoughts go through my head, especially when you've got friends and family that are kind of discouraging you. Hey, get a real job, you know. And I had one buddy who said, I'm starting a car wash, and, you know, that's a real business, you know. So I could have easily given up. But the thing I think, again, we go back to is listening to your instinct. So listening to what you believe, and then also looking at history. So at that time when Amazon was first publishing or had Amazon Advantage available where I could ship out my physical books, I saw that there was so much potential with that. And I also saw the potential in the company, right? That they were innovative and that they were moving forward in a way that very few companies other than like Walmart, you know, had done previously were kind of doing, you know, other than like Microsoft. And I don't even think Apple was moving at that rapid of a pace at that time. So I knew that there was this window, but I also didn't know how long the window would be open. So I think that as business owners and as people who are opportunists and people who want to start businesses, what we have to learn to do is move so much more rapidly than what we're conditioned to move. If you look at some of the most successful people, they move extremely fast. Like there's always this urgency. There's always this pace to get things done. I heard a saying one time that said, if you want something done, give it to the person that has the most responsibilities on their plate because they're going to find a way to do it. Right?
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, holy crap. Because even on my team, I've got people that, you know, on my team, they might have a few responsibilities a week and the guy's moaning and groaning about getting that done. But then I've got like Jackie, who you met. Jackie's an admin of mine. Yeah. And Jackie is like superwoman. Yeah. She'll get things done. Yeah. So I think that as a business owner, when you see these windows of opportunity, whether it's YouTube, Amazon, Google, whatever it may be, move with this massive amount of urgency, make as much money as you can from it. And then if things do hit the fan, you're still in a great position. You could take that money and reposition it into another business or another opportunity.
Fantastic advice. Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I heard something similar. What I heard was somebody say, I think it was a slight variation of that, but it was, I will employ the guy who will turn around to me in the interview and say, well, I won't get that done, but I'll find someone to do it for you. I can't remember if that was Bill Gates or something. I think it was Bill Gates in an interview with Bill Gates. And he said, I'll employ that guy because he's resourceful. He'll get loads more done because he'll find people to go and do stuff. So the person who's sitting there grinding, and that kind of resonates probably a little bit with the fact, you know, of what you were saying about outsourcing your books, right? Yeah. So, it's kind of interesting. And I think a lot of the big business people are middlemen, right? You kind of come up with the idea and you get people to do it. And you kind of just, you just basically project manage, put the bits together. And then, that's where greatness can come in a lot of instances.
And you're able to achieve so much more. One of the questions that I get, not to interrupt you. But people always say, hey, well, Ty, if you're outsourcing the content, why wouldn't the writers go in and publish it themselves on Amazon? Like you've got these people that are great at writing, they're great at researching, they're great at putting everything together. And my answer is simply because they are not entrepreneurs. That's not their desire. Yeah. They know that it's available, they know it's out there, but there's more security in them going in and getting a job off of Upwork or Guru, which are two of the sites that we use to find freelancers, and getting paid this set secure amount. They know that if they write this book, they're going to get paid the $200 that you're promising them. Yeah. And there's massive security in that, right? Yeah. But they don't know what they're going to get paid if they go in, write a book, publish it on Amazon, because there's no, Amazon doesn't say, hey, we're going to pay you $100 a week. We're going to pay you $200 a week, right? So Tony Robbins talks about the 6 basic needs that we all have as humans. And one of those is security. It's why, Well, I'm not going to go into what I was about to say. I was going to talk about women and relationships and men and relationships and things like that, but I'll leave that for another.
Yeah, be careful on that one. But yeah, I know what you mean. No, it's funny. Yeah. So I was working, I started my business in 2002 and I was working at an insurance company, right? And I was sort of lower middle management. And there was a guy that came in, his name was Dave. And he basically came in my level and we became friends. And then he went up the ladder. He was super sharp. He was super good. He worked really hard. And when I left, I said to him, do you want to come into business with me? And he said, no. And I said, we could do a lot of things. And he said, no. He said, I'd never start my own business. I said, why? He said, I wouldn't go home to my wife. He said, I'd be in the office all day. He said, he said, I wouldn't be able to switch off. Yeah. And he was a very, very smart guy, but he worked out straight away. No, that isn't for me, right? He got laid off 6 months later. So this is quite, it's ironic. They actually closed that old call center down. So he got laid off, but you're right. People either do or they don't. And so sometimes they're forced into it, but obviously some people will just want to go and I know I'd say 90% of my friends are not entrepreneurs, right? The ones I actually knew before I started all this. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. And it was the same for me too. And I used to try to convince everyone that you could be an entrepreneur. Everyone's an entrepreneur. I'm still on the fence about that, if everyone can be an entrepreneur or not. I think that everyone should at least try it. Yeah. Because you never know if you don't at least try. Like when listen, growing up, I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. The way I became an entrepreneur is because we grew up in a very poor, impoverished area. And I knew that me working, I worked at a pharmacy here in the States called Walgreens Pharmacy. And I worked there for like 55 hours a week. And I knew that I would never get rich working there because the amount that I made, although I made a significant amount, was the same every week. I'm like, geez, how the hell am I going to get a better house? How am I going to get a better car? Like, I've got to be the best saver in the world or investor or whatever it is. So I knew that entrepreneurship was the way, because if I did with entrepreneurship, I think that regardless of where you're at, right, there's two ways to excel and get to the next level. So the two ways are you have to do different things, right? Do different things. And then you have to do things differently. So there was a point, Paul, where I was consistently at this $10,000 a month level for like 2 or 3 years, man. And it drove me nuts. Like, and I don't want to sound like I wasn't appreciative of it. So I was very, very grateful of being at $10,000 a month, because I know a lot of people want to get there. Yeah. But I knew that I had the potential to get to, $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 a month. And then I heard the concept of, to get to the next level, you have to do two different things. I heard this from a gentleman by the name of Stephen Pierce, who was one of my mentors back in the day. And he said, Ty, he said, dude, you just have to do two different things. And that is do different things and do things differently. And as simple as it sounded, like this massive light bulb went off in my head and things really changed at that point. And some of the things that I did differently, right? So the first step that he talked about is do different things. So at that point, I was just publishing how-to books. Right. So how to start a record label, how to sell a house. And then I started to also get into, romance novels and sci-fi and mystery and everything else. So that was the do different things there, right? And then do things differently. So that part included starting to publish sequels. So instead of one-offs, having a sequel. So I've got a romance book, and not only is there just you read it, and that's it, you're done. But instead, now having a sequence. Here's part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Because the easiest customer to get is someone that's already a customer. Yeah. Right? So they've purchased from you. There's that matrix thing going on again. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
But they purchased from you. They purchased from you already. And now, dude, if they love it, they're a fan. They're going to buy everything. It's why Harry Potter has done so well. It's why if you look at the movie series, you know, like Fast and Furious, right? What are they at? Like Fast and Furious 46 by now or something, whatever it is. But that does so well. There's so many different books that are out there that are serious. Tom Clancy, if you look at any of his books, right? There's one after the other. James Bond, one after the other, one after the other. So the easiest customer to sell is that person.
I guess that would boil down to if as long as people are buying into the first book, you've got a customer, haven't you? Because they're going to want the next book, right? Definitely. Yeah. So yeah.
And there's a massive trick to get the first book sold.
Yeah, right.
Massively easy trick to get the first book sold. That one I'm not going to talk about right now. We're going to save it for the very end.
Yeah.
But there's a super easy trick to get that first book sold and hooked. I call it the actual fishing method.
Okay.
So it's like fishing, and once you hook them in, they're in.
Right. So okay. Yeah. Well, we'll put that one on ice, and then we've got something actually lined up for you guys that Ty's prepared a bit of free training for you guys, especially for us. So we'll be able to link you up with that, and then he'll be able to show you. But yeah, we'll obviously
and a free copy of my new book, Kindle Publishing.
And we're going to get a free copy of the book. Yeah,
there you go.
So what I'll do is I'll put the link at the end of the presentation. But sometimes people are here right now, so the link's just down below here as well. It's tubeimpact.com/Ty. So just go to that link, and you will be able to kind of hook yourself up with his free training that he's made available, especially for us. So, but I'll obviously talk about that in a bit more. So. Right now, obviously, I understand. I think we're at the point like where people obviously like if you've got an idea for a book, or even if you haven't, right, you can basically go and do a bit of research about something. You know, there's so many books about everything. So I would obviously say, without like, obviously you can confirm this, whether this is great. I would say probably choose something that you've got a bit of interest in, go and do a bit of research, and either outsource it, or if you really want to write it yourself, if you're that sort of person, then write it yourself. And then, so we're at that stage, right? And then obviously, you know, what do we do now, right? So we've got this book. What do we do now?
Yep. So here's the step. So the first thing is going back, right? So doing your research. Now, when you start to jump into the research process, initially, most people will say, I don't know what to publish a book around.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, I don't know what I have interest in. I don't know what I'm passionate about. But in the way that I show you how to do the market research, what will happen is you'll end up finding literally dozens of things that you can publish, dozens of ideas, dozens of topics and genres that you can publish content to. So I'm going to show you how to create this huge list that you can always go back to. So once you publish book one, you can go back and now you've got your list. So you can publish book two and book three. So now, once you have the topic, the genre, the idea that you want to publish a book around, the next step is actually getting your content created. So again, as I talked about, there's three different ways that we can do that. The first is you can write it, right? Not a personal favorite of mine, although that is what got me my start. And Paul, I don't think we talked about the length of these books. These are not like Moby Dick, or they're not like the size of a Bible. So these are not 100, 200 page books. These are books that are less than 50 pages. So if you are a writer, you can write them in less than a week. My wife can write a book in like 2 or 3 days, right? I've got team members who I outsource a lot of our books to, and a lot of our students, they actually get their books written in about 5 to 7 days. So if you are going to write it yourself, just know that it takes less than a week. If you're going to outsource it, it takes less than about a week, and it costs less than $200. Now, the other way that you can do it is you can actually use what's known as speech to text. So if you go to like Google Docs, right? Google Docs, they now have a speech to text option where you can actually go in, you plug in your mic, just like I have it. You open up Google Docs and you just freely talk about whatever it is that you are passionate about, whatever it is that you have knowledge about. To give you an idea of how easy that is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Marketer's Cruise or not, but the Marketer's Cruise, you have. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Might feel same.
There you go. Might feel same. So
yeah.
I got invited to write a chapter in a Marketer's Cruise book. And I'm like, gee, and here's the thing too, Paul. I was procrastinating on this. So I waited until the last day. So I'm at my son's school. I'm picking him up from practice and I'm waiting for him to get out. I had about 20 minutes. I picked up my phone and I go to rev.com, rev.com.
Yeah.
And I started to actually speak about the topic. And my topic was Kindle publishing. So I know that like the back of my hand. I could talk about it. And in 20 minutes, dude, it was actually 17 minutes, right? I had about 30 pages worth of content on rev.com that speech to text Rev went in and transcribed. It cost me like 20 something bucks. And that was my chapter there. All right. They gave it to me in a Microsoft Word format. So I was able to go in and clean up anything that I needed to clean up, which was very minimal. So anyone can get a book created, right? Anyone can get a book created. Like I said, we've got people that are part of our community. And you said you're in our Facebook group, right? The KCF Mastermind group.
Yeah.
So you probably...
I've seen you on Facebook, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I am. Yeah.
So if you're not, I'm actually gonna let you in because I think you'll love it. So we have students that range in age from 13 all the way up to 80, and students from over 126 countries across the planet. So it doesn't matter where you're from. Everyone can do this. Amazon doesn't really limit, unless you're maybe from North Korea or something like that, then you're probably not going to be able to do this. But everyone else, you can definitely do this. So super, super, super simple there. So we talked about getting the idea, right? So what are you going to publish, right? And then we talked about getting your content, the 3 different...
Getting your content created. Yep. And then, so now we've got this content. Where would we, what's our first step? Obviously, we're going to go to Amazon and we're going to give it to them. And I imagine in the process is fairly straightforward to convert it to Kindle, is it? Or is it complicated?
Nope, super simple. So as long as your content is in a Microsoft Word or a Google Doc format, you go to kdp.amazon.com, you can upload it. Amazon has made it really simple. They've streamlined this. And the reason why is because they're brilliant, right? They want as many people to provide content on their platform as possible, because that just means more money for them, right? More of a variety of content. So they have made it free. So it doesn't cost you anything. They've made it super simple. If you can go in and if you were able to click and watch this video, you can click and upload your content to Amazon. That's how simple they've made it. So it's very straightforward. And then the thing is, they, as far as royalties, I think this is the best part. As long as you price your books between $2.99 and $9.99, Amazon gives you 70% of the royalties. So if you make $10,000 a month, you keep $7,000. Amazon takes $3,000, and that's it.
Cool. So that's really interesting. So when you publish that book, does Amazon then start to promote it for you? Or is there this might be what you cover in the training, but is there a way for that to get in front of people when you launch it? I know there's some tactics when people are launching podcasts where you get some reviews or something like that. Yeah. I'm not sure whether that's what you have to do with Amazon because I've never done it, but is there some techniques that you can do so that Amazon start to kind of give you a bit of love when you press the publish button?
I like that. The Amazon love there. I'm gonna start using that. Here's how you get the Amazon love. Right?
Well, yeah, because I use that word because we say when we put up a video on YouTube, we call it optimize for love, right?
Right.
Because we want Google to love us, right? We don't want to be playing any of that black hat games that we had to play back in the day and get all of our sites delisted. We want to be on side. So we do this we like kind of jokingly, but it's true. We optimize for love so that Google goes, yeah, okay, I'm gonna show your videos, right? So yeah, that's where I got that from.
Yeah, and you want to be Google's best lover ever, right? Because no one's going to leave their best lover ever unless there's some other issues. But so what we do is so my philosophy is with anything as it comes to when it relates to businesses, I like to put as little time and as little effort into it until it proves itself. But then once it proves itself, then I'm like a madman. That's all I think about is promoting this thing and getting it going because I'm thinking dollar signs all over the place, right?
Right.
Cool. So what we do is when we first publish to Amazon, we put it up there and we use Facebook ads. And there's 4 other methods that we use too. And we start with a very low budget, $2 or $3 a day, right? Okay. Because again, as little time and as little effort and as little money as possible until it's proven itself.
Yeah.
Now, even though we go through the market research, right? So we show you all of these steps that kind of make sure that you have a guaranteed hit, but we still want to play with caution until you start to get those first couple of sales in. Now, here's the thing though, Paul, when you first get those couple of sales in, the model has proven itself because there's billions of people that are on the earth. So now the job is to get more people to buy it, which becomes simpler and simpler and simpler. But you have to, I don't know about you, man, but for me, making the first sale is often more exciting than making that 1,000th sale. Because as crazy it might sound, and maybe this is the entrepreneur in us.
It's always
because
the
now,
way, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't it right? Because now you're like up all night, you're dreaming, and then you're like, oh my God, like I'm gonna rock this thing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, here's what I gotta warn you. If you're watching this and you're about to get started with Kindle publishing, the other thing that's gonna happen is you are going to get addicted to checking your sales. Dude.
Yeah.
I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I used to wake up 2 or 3 times a night to go in, log into my Amazon Kindle account, and I couldn't believe that I'm making sales as I'm sleeping, like literally as and I know that sounds cliche and making money as you sleep, but literally because you have people, and again, credit goes to Amazon, right? They've mastered the art of being able to reach this massive market globally. So while it's 3:00 in the morning for you, it's 9:00 for someone else, right? While it's your GMT, I think, right? So GMT, while it's 2:00 for me in the morning, it's 7 in the morning for you. So you might be up ready to buy something on Amazon.
Yeah,
and I'm literally making money in my sleep.
Oh yeah, well this is my academy, right? Yep. The bulk of my sales come in when I go to bed because 80% of my students are in the US, and my students will buy in the evening when they come home from work, right? Generally they'll come home and they'll buy, and I'm in bed at that point. So so I know exactly what you're saying. So basically, I go to bed and wake up and then I see sales and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's pretty cool.
But isn't that a beautiful thing? Like, listen, dude, I had to condition myself. Because I'm married, I had to condition myself to not, when I wake up first thing in the morning, to not pick up my phone and check my sales before I kiss my wife.
Well, unless you kiss your phone, right? That's hilarious.
So I gotta warn you, if you're watching this, that's the downside to it. Your spouse or whoever's gonna think you're nuts because you're getting up. Like I used to get up 3-4 o'clock in the morning and act like I'm going to the bathroom, but instead I'm checking myself.
And you probably do that more at the start as well, didn't you? Once it's optimized and everything's working and everything's selling, you're making loads of money, but it's like, well, what else can I do now?
Right, that's it.
That's amazing. Oh wow. So obviously we're going to put it up on right. So one question that came into my head as you were saying that. So a lot of people who are watching this now are putting stuff on YouTube, right, and putting stuff on Google. So like the way that we train our system is to tackle reasons why people need, and if it's your book, it would be, or their own book, why would somebody want to buy that book, right? And obviously they're going to have done all that market research when they wrote that book. So they could probably create a video about every single chapter in that book, right? And then people are going to be searching that because those chapter titles, generally speaking, they've been researched, right? So every single one of those chapters, they could put a video up. So effectively, do you see any obstacles to this? They could put up a bunch of videos, rank them on the front page of Google in front of like millions of people, and this could and we can link that to the Amazon book. Is there any problems with that you know of?
No, not at all. I think that's brilliant. As a matter of fact, we might have to get together and maybe we could start teaching our students how to do that. Yeah, I think that is brilliant.
Yeah, because it's evergreen, right? You can obviously tap on some Facebook ads and things like that, but this. And what we generally do as well, we don't always do it because we can't be bothered, but what we'll do is we'll retarget on Facebook because that's super cheap, right? So we'll basically have a landing page and then we'll retarget on Facebook. So we're hitting them. They'll come via the videos and then we'll carry on retargeting them. So, that way it costs us virtually nothing and we're hit, people are keeping top of mind and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's really funky. Like, I think that would be very appealing to some people. And, I don't know if you kind of reveal all this sort of stuff on these sort of interviews, but for Amazon to go, okay, this is happening now, do they need to see certain numbers or certain figures, or do we just carry on selling it ourselves and then does it take off on its own on Amazon? Because obviously Amazon's going to promote it because Amazon's a search engine, right?
Yeah. Amazon, once you start to hit certain milestones, Amazon definitely will start to promote it. And that's another reason why this model works so well, because, you've purchased stuff off of Amazon tons of times, I take it, right? And Amazon will always suggest other things to you. They'll suggest things that other people have purchased that are similar to this. They'll suggest things that people have also searched for. So Amazon has all of these little tactics that are in place that help to boost your sales. And what happens is the more sales that you make on Amazon, whether it's artificial or natural, the more visibility Amazon will give you too. And I take it that Google is probably like that as well. Or YouTube is like that as well, right? The more views that you start to get now, the more YouTube will start to position your video to people that are more likely to watch the type of content that your video has. So it's the same. But Paul, going back, because I think you said something brilliant and I don't want to gloss over it. Okay. So when you're writing your content, not even when you're writing it, well, both. When you're writing it or when you're outsourcing it, what's happening is you're laying out the bullet points. So your outsourcer is going to give you the overall, right, plot of the book, the overall summary of it. And then they're also going to give you a description or summary for each chapter. So now that summary for each chapter, as well as a summary for the entire book, can be individual videos. So now let's say you've got 10 or 12 chapters, you can have 10 or 12 different videos there. Yeah. Right. So I think that is an amazing way of having additional visibility there outside of everything else that we teach in the program.
Yeah. And I think you could even effectively, because, $3 to $10 for a book, right? If you're building that know, like, and trust by, you could have each one of those chapters, but you could just read it on YouTube, right? Yeah. You could say, right, here's a chapter 9, here's chapter 10. Like, who wants to go through 10 videos? They'll just buy the book if they're getting hooked in, right? So it's going to be like, here's chapter 9. I'm going to just read it to you. We can talk about it. And then, you effectively, you can give it away for free so people can watch it on YouTube or just go and buy the book. And who isn't going to go and buy the book if they're going through each one of these chapters? I'm just going to get the book, right? I'm just getting a Kindle out and I'm going to press the button. So I could see massive opportunity for this, and that is gonna, and I obviously, I think as well, Facebook must be really powerful because obviously low ticket items, the auction price is going to be relatively cheap for books, isn't it? I imagine, I guess it depends on the niche, right?
Yeah, definitely depends on the niche, but there's not too many people that are in the publishing niche that actually uses Facebook ads.
Okay.
Which to this day I still don't understand. Like, it's such an antiquated. The publishing industry itself, they're still stuck in like the 90s, right? So they, like, the traditional physical book publishers have not really embraced digital marketing much at all, which is why Amazon has been able to come in and eat their lunch. So it goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, right? Either innovate or die, right? And it sounds crude. But it's like, hey, back when we were all riding on horses, there's some people who said, you know what, I'm never giving up my horse. To hell with that Model T Ford or whatever it is, and it's like you embrace the automobile or you just become a walker for the rest of your life.
So the other question I had was, say you're writing a book, right? And say I wrote the book. I wrote about my free Google system. Now, I know that a lot of people will just give everything away in a book, right? Because it's going to build that know, like, and trust. But people then want my course or they want to work with me. Do you think there's a lot of opportunity for that at the moment? So people go through your book, they build that know, like, and trust, and then they're like, hang on a minute, I want your course. I want to go in your mastermind program. Do you think that there's a lot of opportunity for that as well?
Massive amounts. And that's exactly what we do in this book here. So this book, I mean, you get everything.
Yeah.
Right. You get everything in this book, but people, they buy into who you are, or they buy into, if the book is ghostwritten, they buy into the identity of that person. So here we teach also how to do this if you're a professional. Let's say if you're a real estate agent or an attorney or a doctor or a dentist, how to have your book as your calling card and use that to gain more clients or to pack your seminars or to get more people to buy your coaching program or whatever it may be, to get more people to your YouTube channel or your community. So this book does all of that. And it starts off by giving a massive amount of value, more value than people actually expect. Because what you want to do is you want them to go through it and you want them to say, this is incredible. If he's giving away this amount of stuff for such a low price, imagine what his high ticket or what his paid stuff is like, right? So that's what the whole prospect of having a free book or a low cost book is to do. It's supposed to wow them like crazy so that it makes it a no-brainer for them to simply say, what else do we want? Because as humans, what we do is we reciprocate.
Yeah.
So if someone gives us a massive amount of value, if someone does something nice for us, unless we're a scumbag, right? We want to go in and we maybe that's not nice. Bad tie. I'm using your thing. So we want to go in and reciprocate, right? It's like you go through a set of double doors and someone opens a door and he holds the door for you. Naturally, you want to rush to get the next set of doors and open the door and hold the door for that person. So
yeah, cool. I love that. So just out of curiosity, then that book obviously is a hard copy, but you've got that's on Kindle, right? So do people go into Kindle, put in the word Kindle because they're not quite sure they're in there, and your book comes up?
Yeah. No, this is actually not on Kindle because it has not been released to the public yet. You guys are going to get a copy before it's released to the public.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the foreword is actually written by Les Brown. So motivational speaker, Les Brown. And
okay.
Super proud of that.
I'm going to have to get a copy of that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So obviously we're going to respect Ty's time. I think amazing insights there. Like, thank you so much. I mean, obviously, going and putting up a book, you don't need to write it yourself, guys. You can literally outsource this. I'm guessing that the juice lies with the research, right?
Yes.
For me, it's always research. When I, discovered my system and I put it up, I wanted to make sure that, I had everything covered so that people obviously were going to get wins, right? So your book is going to be like, you're going to research your titles, you're going to research your niche, you're going to make sure. And once you've done that bit, right, then you can outsource it. Obviously, you can write it yourself, depending on the type of person you are and whether you want to do that. Some people obviously would be attracted to you coming into your system who want to write books, right? I know a couple of people that love writing, they just want to write, as you said. So that's great. And then obviously we're going to put it up on Kindle. Kindle's going to basically, we're going to be sending in a bit of traffic. So we'll do that. Facebook ads, we're going to do it with YouTube. And then we're going to let it, we're not overthinking this, right? We've done this book. We can do another one. We can do another one. We can do another one, right? These are, especially if we're outsourcing, this is relatively, there's going to be work involved, guys, right? Obviously, but relatively straightforward stuff. Like you just got to basically key that in. And then you're going to see what takes off, and then Amazon's going to do the rest of the work for you once you've hit a winner, right? I'm imagining that's exactly how it works, right?
Exactly. Well said. Hey, man, you could have done this whole interview, two cameras, and that was it.
Cool. I love that.
Paul interviews Paul, and he knocks it out the park. I love it.
Yeah, I've just sold it for you. So obviously we're going to respect Ty's time. Thank you so much, man. So obviously Ty's got some free training, and at the end of that free training, he does have, he has a way to go deeper and work with him. So yeah, and also you showed me some exciting things just before we started this interview. So I'll hand you over to Ty. Obviously, let us know what was in store on the free training, and there's a hook as well that we have to come back to, and I have to remember that we're coming back to that now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Paul mentioned, in the free training, I'm going to give you all three steps. So the first step we're going to talk about is market research. And I actually go into a lot of detail on this part, Paul, because this is where the juice is. Yeah. You get this right, and you're literally writing your own check, right? You're writing your check in a way where you're continuously making money long-term. So for me, it's always about long-term, because I don't want to put the time into something that's going to be short-lived.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be able to just make money for 3 months or 6 months. Now I'm happy if that happens, but I want to be able to make money for 6 years, 5 years, 10 years. So I'm going to teach you like the true aspects of market research. And then after that, we're going to go into more detail on how to actually get the content created. And then I'm going to give you step 3, which shows you how to actually publish your book the right way on Amazon. So making sure that you're using the right keywords, you're using the right descriptions, the right title. I'm going to show you how to go get your cover created for like as little as $20. And then you'll have a totally finished product. And then I'm going to show you the next step, which is to repeat the process, right? So once your book starts to make, you've got this book and it's making you some money, what do? You take some of that money, and instead of spending it right away, you put it right back into your business. So Paul, that's been one of my secrets to success, is reinvesting back into the business, taking some out, right? To live, have fun, enjoy life, but then reinvesting back into the business has always given me massively huge returns. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that as well.
Absolutely.
And get a free copy of, like I said, the new book, Kindle Publishing Secrets with the Forward by Les Brown. In this thing, I talk about, so this is not just my perspective of Kindle publishing for the last 15 years, but what I did was I went in and I interviewed some of my top students. So students that are making $20, $30, $40,000 a month. I took their best secrets and I put them all into this book as well as my stuff as well. So speaking of those students, we also have a program, Paul, and that program is for those students that get to the $10,000 a month level with Kindle publishing. So in our Facebook group, you'll see a ton of our students. They have these gold plaques here once they reach 10,000 a month in Kindle publishing. Wow. And then for our other students who reach 20,000 a month, they have these platinum plaques. And now we have one for students that reach 50,000 a month because we're seeing a lot of students that are hitting that level as well. So that's it in a nutshell. So I think you had the URL there that you had.
Yeah. So what we'll do, guys, we'll put the link down below here. So obviously just go and sign up for that now. You're going to get a free book on this, right? No obligation for you to go and work with Ty afterwards, but he's going to show you the 3 steps, right? He's going to show you how to set this up, how to do your market research, all the fundamentals that you need. And, some of you guys doing affiliate marketing, some of you guys obviously doing e-commerce or whatever, but, obviously books are massive. And once you've got this set up, you think Google and YouTube selling your book, a little bit of Facebook ads, probably not that expensive, and then get to that level, and then Amazon's going to take over and you're basically going to be off to the races, and your authority will explode in whatever it is you're talking about. Because, once you actually have something that's valuable to people book format's obviously one of the most popular things on the planet and have been since time began, and they're not going anywhere fast, right? So yeah, the link's down below here, guys. Go and check out that training with Ty. He'll talk you through it. I'm going to be, I haven't seen it, so I'm going to be doing exactly the same as you guys straight after this. So I'll be checking out that link as well. And I want to get a copy of that book. So that'd be really cool. So all that's left was there anything else you wanted to add, Ty?
No, man, I think that the biggest thing is to act with urgency. And also one of the things that as I started to do this more and more, and as I started to build a family, Paul, it dawned on me that with intellectual property, you can pass this stuff on to your kids. You can pass it on to family members. You can pass it on to a charity if you wanted to. Yeah. A lot of our students have gotten to a point where they've sold their businesses. They've flipped their businesses. So they've got it to a point where they're making $100,000 a year or so, but they've sold their business for 3, 4, 5 times that amount. And then they've went in and they started another Kindle business. So there's so many different opportunities.
That's interesting. Yeah, because us as entrepreneurs who make money online, we can't sell ourselves, but we could sell our books. Yep. If that's doing really well, someone will buy that as a business.
Absolutely.
Michael, just to give you an example here, guys, Michael Jackson bought the Beatles, the whole back catalogue, right? He joked with Paul McCartney saying, "I'm going to get all your music," and then he got it, right? And he did, and I think Paul McCartney might have it back now, but he didn't for years. Yeah, his catalogue was owned by someone else. So and that's possible. You can sell your, as Ty says, you can sell your books. So yeah, great advice, man. And so I just want to say, obviously, I think crikey, we've done like an hour and a bit. So
really, it doesn't seem that long. Wow,
it's gone really well. Really good fun. I really enjoyed hanging out with you today, man. So
likewise.
Yeah. So go and check the link out, guys. Go and do it now. Obviously, you'll forget later. Go and do it now. Get yourself a free book, and just go and explore. Right, this is something else. Some of you guys have not thought of this before. Some of you have, but check it out at the very least, and see if it's going to be something that you're going to be interested in doing. And if you want to do it, then obviously the world's your oyster. There's a lot of opportunity for all this going forward. It's evergreen. So go and check it out. But thanks ever so much, Ty. And I'll catch you on the inside on your Facebook group, and be hanging out with you when all this craziness goes. I'll be hanging out with you soon as well. So
man, I'm looking forward to it. And I got to get you on my channel too, Paul. You're a great guy, great energy, man. I think you've got a lot of value. So I'd love to have you.